this is MAN 558, Organizational Psychology. Today our last lesson and last topic also. And we are going to talk about organizational structure and organizational change. Then let's start with organizational structure then. Organizational structure is intended to replace the face-to-face interaction with employees, something that is no longer possible because of the increasing size and complexity of the organization. In face-to-face interaction, the owner communicates specific job objectives to each employee and monitors progress in resolving problems. In larger corporations, however, the owner delegates the task to professional managers who are accountable to the owner. The professional managers, or even the owner manager if directly involved, use an organizational structure to relate people and work. An organizational structure, then, is a relatively stable framework of jobs and departments that influences the behavior of individuals and groups towards organizational goals. People and work are the basic building blocks of the organizational structure. The building block relating to people and the relationships among them is referred to as the authority structure or hierarchy. The one relating to work is referred to as the task structure. First, the authority structure. The basic principles which apply to authority structures are unity of command, span of control, delegation, decentralization, and line staff. These principles ensure that the authority of position is indeed of a type and extent which enhance organizational effectiveness. The first principle, unity of command, states that an employee should not have more than one superior. This principle serves to avoid a situation in which an employee is receiving conflicting orders. It also serves to ensure personal accountability. The second principle relates to the span of authority or control, which refers to the number of employees that can be effectively supervised by a manager. Traditionally, this number was limited to 5 or 6. The reason for these limits is that the number of potential relationships between the superior and subordinates increases geometrically as the number of subordinates increases arithmetically. Other aspects of the job which affect the span of control are specialization and complexity. Delegation is the third principle of authority structure and states that a decision which can be effectively handled at the lower hierarchical level should be transferred to a position at that level. Delegation permits managers to make full use of the expertise and ability to their subordinates. Delegation essentially is the transfer of authority from the manager to the subordinate, but not the transfer for the responsibility which still remains with the manager. In some organizations with a strong centralized authority structure, employees complain about the task being given to them by the management without the authority to execute it. Having both the authority and responsibility brings us to the next principle. This is decentralization. The fourth principle of authority structure is decentralization. Decentralization is a management strategy or philosophy which transfers the separate organizational units such as plants, divisions, and branches, the authority and responsibility from a manager to a subordinate. Decentralization involves the transfer of both authority and responsibility from one organizational unit to another. And the last principle of authority structure is line staff. This concept has basically two meanings. The first is that line functions are those which are essential to the core of the business and its operations. The staff functions are those which support the essential functions. By this definition, production and sales would be regarded as line functions of a typical manufacturing company, whereas human resources, IT, accounting, and design would be staff functions. One can see that this distinction does not always reflect organizational reality. For instance, in some manufacturing companies, the design of the product may be critical, which would make the design department absolutely essential to the business and therefore a line function. The second meaning refers to the authority versus advisory relationship. The line represents an authority, superior or subordinate, relationship. Staff represents an advisory relationship. And this is the task structure then. The task structure of an organization reflects the basis upon which work or jobs are grouped. The key criterion for the grouping is organizational efficiency and effectiveness. Jobs can be grouped according to function, product, service, project, customer, and priority. We shall explore in some detail the functional products or service and project basis of organization and briefly touch upon the matrix organization as well as customers and territorial basis of organization. Then the functional basis of organization. When work or jobs are grouped along functional lines, the organization is structured on the basis of the major activities it must engage in to fulfill its mission. Thus, for a typical manufacturing company, the major activities are production, marketing, finance, accounting, and personnel. The operative principle is specialization. The related skills or responsibilities are grouped into the department. The major advantage of the functional departmentalization is the efficiency arising from specialization. Specialists working in the same department can share their expertise and provide mutual support in resolving departmental problems. Also, resource efficiency is achieved because equipment and related facilities need not to be duplicated. However, the functional bases also have disadvantages. The chief disadvantage is that the departmental interest often tends to override the organizational interest. Coordination can also become a problem, especially in information processing, or the technology creates an interdependence between departments. And product service basis of organization. In this form of organization, the jobs are grouped according to their contribution to producing a product or providing a service. Thus, all the functions needed to produce product A will be grouped together in one unit. The product from organization has several advantages. It allows the organization to develop the expertise in the functions specific to a product and to develop and use efficiently the highly specialized equipment needed for the product. Coordination between functions with a product division is relatively easy. Another advantage is that since each product division has complete control of its operations, it can be set up as a profit center and held accountable. The chief disadvantage is the possibility of services being duplicated in each division, resulting in increased costs. The project basis of organization. In the project basis of organization, all the jobs that contribute directly to a project are grouped together. Several projects might be underway in an organization at any one time, or varying duration from a few months to several years. Each project has its own organization headed by the project manager, who is assigned the necessary facilities, resources, and personnel, many of whom are on loan from the regular line and staff departments. There are several variations of the project of organization. The variations are marked by the control exercised by the project manager over the activities, personnel, and resources. A special type of project-based organization is the matrix organization. It's a type of organization where employees or project teams report to more than one unit manager. Individual employees or teams work with different units and managers to accomplish the task at hand. The matrix structure essentially combines the features of organizations structured on the basis of function, product, or service and project. The key advantage of matrix organization is that it allows employees to be boundary spanners. Working across boundaries not only benefits the organization, but also widens the career scope of employees. However, if managed poorly, matrix organization may pose several disadvantages to the organizations. One obvious disadvantage is the role conflict employees may face working on multiple and sometimes conflicting tasks. Working with more than one master may also create emotional tensions and uncertainties of loyalties. The customers and territorial basis of organization. In addition to the three forms of organization, we explored jobs can also be grouped on a customers and territorial basis. An example of grouping on a customer's basis would be the divisions of publishing company. A territorial form of organization is exemplified by the national retail chain stores, which are grouped on a regional basis. The store managers report to a regional manager, and the regional manager reports to the national president. In both the customers and territorial forms, each division has the people and resources to meet the needs of the customers and territory it serves. And characteristics of organizational structure. These characteristics expressed in contrast pairs are specialized versus general, tall versus flat, independent versus interdependent, and tight versus loose. First, specialized versus general. The characteristic relates to the way work is designed. At one extreme is specialization. Organizations which choose specialization design the jobs to include simple, repetitive movements. The jobs have little, if any, skill variety and task identity, and absolutely no opportunity for initiative or creativity. At the other extreme are organizations which believe in designing work to include skill variety, skill identity, task significance, autonomy, and feedback as much as possible. The structural characteristic in these organizations will be general, as opposed to specialized. Between these two extremes, several degrees of specialized and general jobs exist. Specialization is known to improve productivity, but the fact that organizations need to introduce job enlargement, job rotation, job enrichment, and quality of working life programs indicates that the impact of specialization on work motivation and behavior is not positive. Tall versus flat. This characteristic literally describes the shape of organizational structure. A tall structure is one in which there are many hierarchical levels. This generally occurs when the spans of controls are narrow. By contrast, a flat structure has fewer hierarchical levels, which are brought about by wider spans of control. A flat structure would provide employees more opportunity for enriched work and that extent have a positive impact on work behavior. A tall structure, on the other hand, gives managers more control and consequently would tend to limit the amount of autonomy which employees could have in their work. Independent versus interdependent. In this characteristic of focus is on the independence or interdependence of work units. The work unit can be structured in a specialized or general way. If it is done in a specialized manner, then it causes greater interdependence. If specialization is not used, then work until will be relatively independent. In an interdependent system, if one work unit goes on a wildcat strike or some reason is unable to perform its function, then the other units will remain idle. The production will come to a standstill. Tight versus loose. Tight or loose is also referred to as a degree of formalization in the organization. A high degree of formalization makes it a tight organization, A low degree of formalization results in a loose organization. Formalization refers to an extent and the manner in which policies, procedures, and rules are spelled out in the organization. Tight organizations will not have a positive effect on individuals who value autonomy and are competent in their jobs. However, a tight structure is appropriate for some areas such as organizational security and also for some employees who do not seek autonomy or discretion. The terms mechanistic and organic are also used to describe the tight and loose, respectively. According to the convergence thesis, organizations have to be similar to be successful. For example, they have to be flatter, flexible, and team-oriented. However, divergence thesis argues that different structures could equally be successful in different cultural contexts, so long as there is congruence between the organization and its context. The majority of Chinese organization structure remains hierarchical and family-like despite environmental pressures for more professional management and decentralized structures. One such environmental pressure that strongly influences the organizational structure is uncertainty. For example, the change of simple or stable environment to a complex and unstable one. To meet the demands imposed to the uncertainty, organizations will increase their horizontal complexity by adopting buffering or boundary spanning departments and replacing mechanistic elements such as standardization and centralization with organic structural mechanisms. One can argue that organizational structure, especially in domestic organizations, should be congruent with the cultural context to some extent because organizations functions with people, for example employees, and for people, like customers, sharing the same cultural characteristics. In today's turbulent environment, only those organizations that are flexible, adaptive, participative, and innovative will survive and prosper. And hence, the need for organizational change and development, a planned and continuous effort that effectively integrates the organization's socio-technical systems and environment is more pronounced than ever. The effectiveness of approach to organizational change and development can be gauged by the extent to which these are conducive to single-loop learning or double-loop learning. In single-loop learning, the organization adapts to environmental change without significant change in the basic assumptions. As a result, it improves the organization's capacity to achieve known objectives. Examples of organizational approaches in the single-loop learning category include quality of work life, socio-technical approach to job design, total quality management, and like that. On the other hand, double-loop learning goes beyond adopting the anticipates change. It involves changing the organization's cultures and learns from that process. The learning organization requires double-loop learning. It's an organization where people continually expand their capacity to create the results they truly desire when new and expansive patterns of thinking are nurtured, where collective aspirations is fed free, and where people continually learning how to learn together. And recent research showed that global work environment dictates change in the following direction. First, high employee involvement and empowerment. And another one, openness to change and willingness to learn. Team orientation, quality orientation, of course innovation, performance orientation, and diversity and inclusion. Thank you for listening and good luck for your exams.